Hey Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today to share with you my layout for this month's Stash Bash YouTube hop. This month we are putting a dent in our twine and or ribbon collection, and this is the layout that I created. I have a huge stash of twine and I decided it was time to use some of that up. I downloaded a template to do some stitching from Pink Paisley. I think it might actually be a template that they sell, but I was able to find some. I just found it in Google Images, to be honest, and I knew I wanted it to fit about 11 by 11, maybe even 10 by 10. So I just printed it in 2 halves and then taped them together. So right here I'm just figuring out what paper I want to do the hand stitching on. And I decide that I want to do it on that navy blue. I have 2 pictures of my son and my husband, as my husband is putting on my son's bow tie for a first time. My husband is a tie wearer, but living in the South, bow ties are the way to go, and so he had a bow tie that he wanted to wear to his 8th grade dance. And so Michael had spent quite a bit of time standing in front of the mirror figuring out how to tie the bow tie himself, but didn't realize that he was going to have to tie it on Nicholas. So here I've decided what papers I want to use, and I just used my paper piercer to pierce the holes in the template all the way around the outer edge of the heart. And then from there, I just am going to thread my twine through a needle and literally follow the lines that are outlined there on that template. Threading twine, and I have this is the Twinery twine, and it's the one that's got the shimmer in it. I played with a couple of colors. I'd pulled out a bunch of colors that were in the pattern paper and ultimately settled with the one that I first chose, which has this shimmer shine to it. And I'm not sure I can't remember the color off the top of my head, but I'll be sure to link you up. So I figured out, and it took me a while, which is why that kind of breaks away and then comes back, is that in order to get the twine through a needle, and I do have a very fat embroidery needle, but if you put this double-sided, artist's tape on the very end of the twine and then cut a pointed edge, it is very easy to thread the twine through the eye of the needle. So I just tied the end off, and I decided to start in the middle and just tape down the edge and then go all the way through. And I sped this up because, and I actually cut out parts of this, but I literally followed the lines of the pattern that's on that template there. The beauty of having that giant spool of twine, as you can see on my mat there, is that you use just as much twine on the back of your layout as you do on the front of the layout. I didn't care what the back of the layout looked like, but there's an awful lot of twine back there. There's no easy way to really minimize the use of twine in this process. So I got really comfortable with threading this needle and using my artist tape to do so. And I kid you not, but I probably used a good 10 different long lengths of twine in order to get this accomplished. And it was pretty time consuming, but I have to say I really like the way that this turned out. So I just tied a knot at the end of each long piece of twine that I used and was very careful to pull it through. Now that center piece of the heart there has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pieces of thread going through that hole. So that hole is quite a bit bigger than the other holes are, but you can't really tell that it is quite a bit bigger, and I think part of it is because all of those 13 are there. You do need to be careful that you are pushing your needle down, not into another piece of twine, because this twine is wrapped around itself. I did learn that a couple of times and sort of started to fray the twine, but I was able to cover up the worst of that with the picture. So I will in a minute spare you, there you go, all of the rest of the sewing, and the rest of this process video is the creating of the layout. So I put an awful lot of adhesive on the back. In fact, you'll see as I go to do this, there's double-sided adhesive, and I put a fair amount of it on the back because I didn't want it to buckle on the paper, and or I wanted to make sure that everything stuck down and it was pretty well secured. So there's me sticking down, it's American Crafts double-sided tape, and I just pull off the backing. That way it helps secure all the threads that are at the back and make sure that nothing warps and wiggles as I continue to create. I will say that as much as I love the twine, it does add quite a bit of bulk to my layout. And so where lately I've been using a lot of craft foam behind my pictures, there really wasn't the need to do that because the twine has sort of lifted the pictures up off that background that I created there. So that is the piece of pattern paper that I chose to top and bottom the paper with. And I could have cut the top and the bottom and put it on the blue piece of paper, but because I wanted to make sure that I secured off all of the backs of that sewing, there was just as much thread back there as there was on the front. This was the better way to go. So I'm going to back each of these two pictures with different pattern papers. This is the Swagger collection from Fancy Pants from quite some time ago. So not only am I reaching into my stash and busting out some Twinery twine, but I'm busting out a pretty old Fancy Pants collection. We were in the bathroom when I took these pictures, as that's where Michael had the mirror to figure out how to tie this bow tie. So I converted the pictures to black and white, and I really like how the dark background with the contrast of the twine complement the black and white pictures that I've chose to use here. So I have a glassine bag, as I've been wanting to do a lot of lately, just to tuck some journaling in behind the pictures there. I am not a big fan of white pen. I like the look of it, but I don't like the way that the white pen fades over time. So for this particular layout, hidden journaling was necessary, not because I wanted to hide what I wanted to say, but because I had that dark background and it was really hard to read black pen on the darker background. So again, digging through my stash, I have some buttons that are from American Crafts that I store in old gum containers, and I also have some flare from Studio Calico that I just pulled out colors that complement the colors of the paper, and I went with a craft button from American Crafts, that orangey red rusty orange piece of flare, and the camera. So I originally pulled out this blue tag because there is that lighter blue in the paper, but I change my mind for some reason and I go with just a cream colored tag, and I like both. I don't know what really prompted me to change my mind about the tag. I think I got distracted as I was going through my stash by something. My original intent had actually been to try and put both of them in there, but there was no need for that. So I'm not sure. Which do you prefer, that lighter blue or the craft tag? They both work, just for different reasons, I guess. So I have the stickers from the Swagger collection, and I use those to further embellish some more. I found this brown piece of paper that I really liked. It's actually, I believe, the back of that same stripe. It's not a stripe, that same chevron that I'm using, and so I use that on the back of another picture for a picture layer, and so you'll see me sort of moving flare and stickers around and just looking for a symmetrical alignment. I like to create visual triangles on my pages, and so I used the 3 circular things, so the 1 button and 2 pieces of flare, to create that visual triangle on my layout. And I thought I'd just put a ripped piece in here again for some more color and variety, but I end up pulling that off. And actually what you don't see is that I do I pull it off, but I do actually end up reusing it. I thought I liked the ripped edge of that pattern paper, or the wood grain paper there, but it didn't work the way I had wanted it to, so it was quick and easy to fix, and I just flipped it around and was still able to use that same piece of paper for a paper layer. So you can see it's not easy to adhere all of this down through the layers of the twine, but actually I got the placement wrong. The picture was going to be too far over. I put the wrong piece down first, but it didn't matter. It was easy to pull up, but it is tough to get this stuff stuck down. In fact, you'll at the end in the final pictures, you'll see where because I use the glassine envelope behind the pictures, things have sort of lifted up a little bit. Like I said, it kind of has that same effect of having the craft foam. So you see that little piece there, and I do use it and tuck it in under the picture there for another color layer. Now it's time to work on the title of this layout, and I get some chipboard thickers, and I really liked that OK because it was a similar color. Whoop, my daughter's hand there trying to show me something. Sorry about that. So I do go with the OK, and so the title of this ends up being OK Bow Tie. My son wasn't thrilled about the whole bow tie process, but it was something that he knows he needs to do. The swimmers wear their bow ties down to championship meets, and so this is part of growing up for him. And then I just put in the bow tie there. Kind of a funny title, but I guess it makes sense to me, and it will to him later. So tip about letters, I just had a piece of washi, because washi is easy to pull up to align those, and I always forget to start from the end of the word when I want to get the alignment of the word right, so I end up having to put that B, move it over, because that's what I put down first. So that is me putting a huge dent in a huge chunk of twine. That's it for me today for our Stash Bash Hop. I hope you are inspired to pull out some twine and play along and learned a few tips on using twine. Here are some close-ups for you to enjoy. Thanks for stopping in and joining us today. Be sure to stop in and visit all the other gals and see what they have to share and how they put a dent in their ribbon and or twine. Thanks for stopping in. Take care.